Hello, everyone. Welcome to Astromegistus's Cafe C live Wednesday show called Wax Hermetic with me and my co-host who is just reconnecting.
And
There
we're
you go.
live.
Yes. Go ahead,
Hello.
Elise.
Hello and welcome to Cafe C. This is Wax Hermetic. I am Elise and I'm here with the wonderful Ursula Duffy. Hello, Ursula.
Hello.
And we are here. This is our new weekly segment where we will be celebrating spirit and the Hermetic knowledge on the day of Hermes, aka Mercury, Wednesday. Mercury is the ruler of Wednesday. And for those of you who don't know, Mercury, aka Hermes, is the messenger god with the winged sandals. So he delivers messages, information, insight from the heavens to earth and even down to the underworld and back again. So we are just exploring all aspects of things known and unknown, and how we can best reintegrate the very needed lesson and knowledge of spirit. I often equate it with the right brain and just kind of having a more holistic, integrated, intuitive approach to a world that has gotten exponentially more left brain and seems to be going even further in that direction. um, my name is Elise. I am one of the astrologers and coaches on the brand new platform Astromegistus. And I come from a karmic astrology background and have in recent years started to incorporate evolutionary astrology because I figure karma is something to be worked through and evolved past. Ursula, why don't you let us know a little bit about you?
Thanks, Elise. I'm Ursula Duffy, and I'm also one of the astrologers here on Astromegistus. And I had a remembering of astrology back in 2017 and went into a deep dive 1-year intense apprenticeship in pretty much all of 2018 and have been practicing and studying since then in various courses with the CIA, Astrology University, but most importantly by working directly with people doing readings and teaching, because I feel that is the greatest way to learn is just by practicing. And my dear students and clients are my greatest teachers. So I've been so honored to be able to do that now since then. And when Elise and I were talking about the topic for the show, we came up with how we have become disconnected from spirit, and the whole left brain, right brain topic came up as well. And then I told Elise a little bit more of my backstory, how I pretty much have been on this reconnecting to spirit path for about 10 and a half years at this point. I had a spiritual reawakening back in the spring of 2015. And that is when I pretty much processed my entire childhood and learned that an intuition is actually a normal thing, and how we've been taught to abandon it. And we've been conditioned as a society and humanity to disconnect from it. So it was I went to psychic school, like I did all these things. And then the last piece that came in was astrology. And that was the one that kind of came back the strongest. So here we are.
I love that. I want to go to psychic school. I feel like my next move.
It's important because you get to work with other people and like-minded people that, are on the same exploration journey, back into the reintegration of spirit, which is the subtitle for our show.
Right.
So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So we were talking about where to start for our first episode. And then Elise told me this beautiful story about the destruction of the temple, which is the title for today's episode. So Elise, could you please share that story?
Yes. So also, I just want to say that I started studying astrology when my mother, who is actually very Catholic, would just love to read us the horoscopes and like the weekend newspaper. And astrology started to become some of my first reading material, some of the first material that I really went out and sought additional material on, even though I was just like learning how to read. And then by the time I was really invested in it, my mother was like, "Oh, by the way, don't believe in this. Like it's sacrilege." And I was like, "Okay." So I got a very early like how is it both ways kind of thing. So I
Mm,
carried on my study and then probably abandoned it a little bit in high school. And then it was actually this amazing artist and dorm mate of mine in college who got me onto the astro.com website and started showing me all this like in-depth astrology that was now available to you. I was like, wow, you don't have to draw charts from scratch, anymore. You don't have to pour over like paper ephemerises and stuff like that to get all of this really precise calculation. And it was just kind of like my entree back into a rediscovery of it. And at the time, I was also in theater. I was in school for theater, and just kind of really went headfirst into like another level of advanced study. And also, along with my regular kind of Western conventional theater, modern theater training, I started getting into a more I got into ritual storytelling, ritual poetic drama of the African continuum, and other indigenous storytelling processes that, um, upon not only integrating into my artistic craft and my professional training, I just realized like, oh, this is like how storytelling really has happened, and learning about, storytelling in the round, and how in when you are doing this in a tribal setting, that the theater is both the storytelling is both, for entertainment purposes, as well as like moralistic purposes, as well as like your first civil court system. And, this having the everyone that is part of the community is not just a spectator, they're a witness, because in order for us to make sense of what is happening now, what has happened in the past, and what we foresee happening in the future, we all need to be able to communicate what it is that we saw and witnessed and experienced, both from outside of the circle and from inside of it, as part of the story being revealed through us, so that we can make sense of it as a whole and know how to like move on from that moment. Especially when we talk about, past hurts or something that has happened to us in the past. Like that's really how we get energetically anchored into, into a hurt or something that is not, that will keep coming back to until it's resolved. It's like a knot or a node in the body, right, where we hold on to it. So that being said, that was when I was in college. And then actually in 2020, I was told about a book called The Immortality Key. And my friend sent me an interview with the author, Brian Marascu. And while he was talking about the Immortality Key, which has a subtitle of what the search of, or the history of the religion with no name,
mm,
he talked about a story about that actually happened in history, where this guy named Practistatus, who happened to be a very high-ranking member of society in ancient Greece, and he was also well versed in the Hermetic practices, spiritual practices, and he advised the um, emperor, or I'm trying to think if he was a Caesar or an emperor at the time, but he stood up for he stood against the destruction of the temple at Eleusis. And Eleusis had been a temple. There had been a temple to Demeter there. Eleusis is a place is about like 100 kilometers outside of Athens. And for about 2,000 years, it had been kind of like the last place where the instruction, not just the instruction, but like the last institutionalized stronghold for spirit to be recognized by all of, society. And for, almost 2,000 years at this point, the best and the brightest men of the Greek-speaking world were invited there to kind of pay homage to the instruction, to the actuality of spirit through a ritual retelling, a theater performance performed by these temple priestesses and spiritual technicians, where they would reenact the story of Demeter and her daughter Persephone and Hades and all this stuff. So it was a retelling of like the birth, death, rebirth process. And in order to be invited to it, you already had to be, have some kind of high mind, some kind of something, but you weren't even allowed to participate in you had to be initiated into this ritual. And your first time that you went there, you weren't even allowed in the temple. You were not allowed to take part of the ritual drink. You were not allowed to like imbibe this whole thing. You had to like actually sit outside of the temple in, in reverence to hope to be invited back. So all of these things were really counter to a very increasingly intellectual, externalized, I'm going to say masculine and even patriarchal world that they had been in. But the whole point was for all of these great minds to have the integration of the spirit of all things that you can feel but not see, to learn, a deeper experience of spirit and of the divine through this initiation. And when it had been, the temple had been damaged at one point, but it had been allowed to exist, and for this pilgrimage every year to happen until about 390, into like the 390s, when the emperor at the time was like, we're just going to destroy it. We have other things to do. And this guy, Praxiteles, stepped up to the guy who's like, you cannot destroy the temple at Eleusis. If you destroy the temple, you will make the world abiatus, which is an ancient Greek word that means unlivable or uninhabitable. And upon hearing this, I had two very like visceral experiences. One, I'd actually been familiar with the name Praxiteles without knowing who it was. Because in 2012, I had gone on a radio show with a new friend who had actually invited a clairvoyant as the out of studio guest. And I had asked her who my spirit guide was, and she was talking about this guy. She was like, he kind of looks like he's like Egyptian, but it might be like, kind of like Athenian, like Egyptian something. And I was like, well, what's his name? And she said, it's like she's like, I don't know. It's like, looks like it's 100 characters long. Starts with a P-A-P-E. And there's something like very like a regent about him. Like he's like a knowing, like a consigliere, like he's just like a knower of stuff. And she's like, I can't quite get his name because I'm seeing it in some kind of characters that are not English or like Roman characters. But right now he's laughing at you and saying, I don't care if you call me Peter, just call me. So, unfortunately, the temple was, in fact, destroyed, and that kind of led to, and this is in this kind of like Paleo-Christian like era, so there are other practices and stuff like that happening, but that's like the destruction of the temple was the last place, the last stronghold for the actual ritualization of an initiation practices of acknowledging spirit, the intuitive mind, divine feminine, into what is, a developing Western world and culture that we kind of find today. So in my thought, we've never tipped the scales back. In fact, we've gone headlong into the destruction and the cover up of the destruction, the discard of the entire history, as opposed to discovering why it is that life does seem to be more imbalanced, or seemingly focused on things that are only external at the expense of, our entire inner knowingness and intuition and practices that would allow us to have a more balanced and integrated experience.
And that blew me away.
Which I think is so amazing. And like you said, when you said that you got into intuitive arts, kind of later on, and then you were just like, oh my gosh, let me go back and get it, which again, the term Sankofa is from a West African language, which literally means to go back and get it. Something that I learned again in my ritual, poetic drama, education. So a lot of my thing has been about more taking what I've learned. I feel like I'm a very right-brained person who learned how to operate in a left brain world, sometimes with a really rough interface. And so mine thing has been they've both been present, but it's the act of integration that is the real challenge for me, and not letting either one become so not favoring one in the expense of the other, but kind of maximizing and enriching both, and allowing, having a real firm foundation through the process of integration.
Yes. So let's weave in. Thank you for sharing all of that, by the way, and telling that story so beautifully. So I think it's important to weave in kind of the current transits at the moment that we started. And we didn't plan this, by the way, but it ends up that we're discussing this destruction of the temple and the feminine, and, the vision that I had of it, it was just fountains and water, and just the kind of the thumbnail that we have for the show. And right now we have very kind of rare building grand water trine going on in the cosmos, with Neptune just dropped back into Pisces this morning, cozying up with Saturn, who recently dropped back into Pisces. We have the north node of the moon in Pisces, Jupiter in Cancer, and Mars and Scorpio have been kind of tag teaming through Scorpio at the moment. And the sun moves into Scorpio today. The moon's in Scorpio right now.
And yesterday was the new moon in Libra, but at the very last, the 28th degree and change of Libra. So, and had a quick change into that Scorpio moon that is desiring for us to go beneath the surface and find the origins of power and of insight and stuff like that. All that lies beneath the surface. Feels very Scorpionic already. And I know, the sun hasn't even come into, the sun will be in Scorpio by just before midnight tonight. So yeah, we didn't plan that, but it's funny how the universe just happens like that.
Yeah. So bringing this topic to the surface is actually so divinely timed, and us teaming up, and we kind of teamed up because I kept hearing you say the word ritual when we were doing our introductory kind of meeting with the team. And I was like, I want to work with Elise on this show.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And thank you so much. And then upon exchanging our charts, I loved that we found that we really do have these complementary skill sets, including the fact that we have, we both have Virgo Venuses, and we're going to talk about Virgo in a minute, because we do get Virgo, the Virgin, from the term Vestal Virgin, and the Vestal Virgins, they didn't just have to be Vestas, particular ones, but the whole, the spiritual technician and very methodical, and process oriented, Mercury ruled Virgo, gets such a bad rap. And honestly, I think that in addressing the destruction of the temple, we definitely also have to address the destruction of the archetype of Virgo, as opposed to Virgo. I know so many people, especially when they're when they have a Leo Virgo cusp, they're close to it. They're always like, no, please just tell me I'm a Leo. And I'm like, listen, I'm a Leo. It's not all it's cracked up to be. Please, like, you need to put some spec on Virgo's name. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, but really, I think I really do feel that it was when we destroyed the temple. There's so many things that go along with that. Like, I have this whole concept of you know part of in the book, the immortality key, and part of what would have been part of all of these rituals was the making of a ceremonial drink or wine. And there is some speculation as to whether or not there were like psychoactive properties or whatever that were like incorporated into these things. But the main thing is the Virgo would have been the person not only planting the wheat, knowing when to harvest it, know how to separate the wheat from the chaff, and also potentially some aspects of the plant that may or may not provide psychoactive properties. But like the knowingness of the process, and making sure that it all gets done in time and all this kind of stuff. And for the purpose of ritualizing something that I feel is very Piscean, which is like this experience of spirit, like a very immersive experience of spirit. And I think even Pisces rules pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. So it's really like um, the Virgo knowledge, like the Virgo kind of medicine woman, or like temple priestess, spiritual technician, of knowing how much and of what, of like these like source materials. And then like Pisces ruling kind of like the actual effect
Yeah.
of where that brings you.
The dream
And
state
yeah, the dream state and like
and the imagination.
the imagination. Yeah. Like observing, experiencing the holistic experience of the intangible is something that Virgo provides. And Virgo even provides the safety and the anchor to which, this like Mercury, but like earthen Mercury anchor, so that you can get really far out with Neptune in
Yeah.
Pisces. And I guess before the discovery of Neptune, we're talking about Pisces ancient ruler Jupiter, so
Right.
before you experience, an ecstatic state, something that you expands your horizons, expands the mind, gives you a much broader perspective of things. All things really do need an anchor in order for you to really explore fully. And I feel like that's something that, because both the Virgo, I think Virgo in particular, but I know a lot of people that feel really some kind of way about the Pisces archetype, about being, a little far out, a little wishy-washy or whatever. It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, maybe it's just because we're experiencing both of those archetypes with like the broken axis, the broken
I
polarity,
totally agree. Yeah.
and therefore you can't really experience either one of them, because like the essence of them and like their significance individually and the power of them together in an integrated way has been lost.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're talking about an anchor. So I just wanted to point out too where we are collectively, like our collective soul lesson for everybody on planet Earth at this time right now is Virgo Pisces, because the South node's in Virgo right now and the North node's in Pisces. So as far as the anchor, or like the well that we have to draw from, it's there right now for all of us to tap into this and to relearn and go back and rediscover what, exactly what we've been talking about this whole episode so far, and to like, get it right and get rid of the stereotypes. And the details are important. The processes are important. Cleanliness is important, because if that stuff gets contaminated, guess what? You're probably going to die.
You're gonna die.
So,
Like, it's gonna
yeah.
be bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to not just like have an altar, you want to keep it clean. You
The
want to,
specificity is important too, that the way the
yes,
things work together, the alchemy of the whole thing. So,
exactly. And
yeah, I think
yeah,
that
the specificity and yeah, discernment of Virgo is so essential. It really nourishes the soul. It nourishes the body, which is like the temple in which the soul is enclosed and experiences the world, which is both, has its, practical and mystical aspects. So Virgo also rules, hygiene, daily routine. I always like to point out that, Virgo in sixth house is not just physical hygiene, but also mental hygiene. So what
yeah,
it is that you actually put into your mind or keep from your mind, and how you ritualize refining that for the most like optimal day, the most
yeah.
optimal like process. I also like to talk about Virgo as the, like I said, so many people, especially if they're on the cusp, are like, please just tell me I'm a Leo. I feel like such a Leo. Oftentimes, people that are born on the cusp, I find that that are actually Virgo suns tend to have either a Virgo moon or something that's like, they're some kind of Virgo aspect, or sorry, Leo aspect. They have like a Leo moon. So I'm like, well,
Or a
that makes
Leo
sense.
Mercury.
Or
Yeah,
Mercury, exactly, because
yeah.
of, the proximity or their, the moon was originally devised with, at the new moon is, and the new moon in Virgo is when, you would now be in the month of Virgo, that kind of thing. So, but I always say that, in Leo, you find your own, your joy, what makes your heart sing, you find your own like divine spark, and you want to show it, to the world, you want to share it. It's about, creative self-expression and all that kind of stuff. Um, Creativity and procreativity, romance, speculation, like, just like the stuff that like just makes your heart sing, that you feel really called to. But without the process of Virgo, like the taking what you found, the joy, the majesty of your own, creative self-expression as dictated to you by your heart and your spirit, without Virgo's work of addressing it and going through the process of whittling away, the excess, and making it a repeatable process, a refined product or service in Virgo that then you kind of bring to market in Libra, and start the whole
Mhm.
process again in this transpersonal state where you're sharing it, with the collective. Without Virgo, like, Leo's just kind of a ham, or an
Yeah,
adolescent, like a forever child, and
you
has
have to grow
no,
up.
has to grow up. Like Virgo
You have to
has to
put it
grow
into
up.
practice.
You
Yeah.
have to put it into practice. So when we talk today about like us not having any rituals, or, in Western society, us having so limited, if any, kind of like rites of passage that would really, you know, kind of close the door, like make sure that we are moving from, the child's mind into a young adult, into an adult, and stuff like that. It's because of how long we've been saying Virgo sucks, or that Virgo has no place here, or that Virgo is just like,
A
the
nitpicky perfectionist critic.
yeah. Wow.
Uh,
What a drag. So I
I
think
know,
that
right?
part of this transit, of this, nodal transit that we're in with Virgo South Node, is taking what we really need and actually like put like again putting some spec on her name. And so that we're not just addressing the archetype and the process and the lesson of Virgo as this, it has to be perfect, it's like, rigid and, perfectionistic, and, it already has to have the answers. It already has to have the, you know, step one, step two, step three, step four, that kind of thing. It's, we're actually being asked to know that that is essentially what is like the best process through which we, take the the desire of the heart, the specialness of our own divinity of Leo, and like put it into practice. But it's really, through Pisces, where the North Node is, it's about intuiting perfection, like intuiting like spirit realm perfection, like perceiving in total what the ideal is. And then we feed it to Virgo that can then take that holistic view of, divine perfection, of our, full integration and immersion into spirit. And literally, what do you call that? When you reverse engineer,
Mhm.
Virgo's going to take that whole and it's going to
Yes.
reverse engineer it back to zero. And then we're going to go
Put it
about the
back together.
process, and then
Yeah.
we're going to repeat the process and refine it. And that's like a glorious process. That's like literally, to me, that is what the process of like finding one's purpose and like one's own work is. You know what I'm saying? As opposed to just finding a place, a system, an occupation outside of yourself that has nothing to do with your heart space, has nothing to do with
Exactly.
your interests, has nothing to do with what you think is like most valuable or what you want to see in the world happen. Instead, it's like, let me intuit what is essential, and then let me find my Virgo process of like making that a reality.
Yeah. And this intense water trine that we're under right now gives us all the opportunity to really trust our gut, which also relates to Virgo,
Oh yeah.
and our intuition, and reconnect with that. I mean, water is so much all about the intuitive and the dreams, and just kind of going back within and reconnecting to that feminine energy. It's such a ripe time for us all to focus at least some attention, hopefully a lot more than we usually do, on that, because
Completely.
like the element is there and the planets that are involved, like they're powerhouses, and they won't, some of them won't connect in this way ever again for the rest of our lifetimes. So this
Yes.
is a rare opportunity for us to really focus on this right now.
Yeah, it's like it really is like a now or never moment, especially
Yeah.
with Saturn and Neptune back into Pisces. Like the fact that, Neptune going back over, I mean, I almost feel like like a little quake happen whenever these planets go over the world axis. And
Yeah.
the fact that Neptune is just going to be hanging out at the last degree of the zodiac in Pisces, which I have nicknamed the last degree of the zodiac, Pisces 29, the everything everywhere all at once degree,
And if you watch that movie, whoa.
Exactly. It was only after I watched that movie twice that, and then I
Mhm.
was like sitting down to do a video, an astrology video, that I was like, oh, this is everything everywhere all at once. And there's even, oh man, I wish I brought my Sabian symbol book to my little setup here, but there's even the Sabian symbol for 29 Pisces is like, so that I want to say,
Oh, I can pull it up. Hang on. I have it.
oh yeah, if you can pull it up, there's just something that's like, it's literally like the prism of all the colors, like all at once. It really is everything everywhere all at once. I was like, ah. And for those of you who do not know what the Sabian symbols are, I love Sabian symbols. I did learn how to read tarot before I read the English language, but again, it was something that I kind of like left in my kind of like high school, like kind of middle school even days. And then when I discovered the Sabian symbols in 2012, I was blown away because it is such an incredible, 360 degrees of the zodiac um, explained or expressed through these intuitive visions from a clairvoyant named Elsie Wheeler, that are just, they're universal and they're just so impactful. So when I think of the Sabian symbols, it's like tarot on steroids, or it's like the next iteration, the next octave up from the tarot.
So with the Sabian symbols, we round up to the next degree. So
Right.
30 Pisces would be
Right.
the great stone face is what it says.
Oh. Oh, what's
And
29?
a prism is 29.
Okay, yeah. So I'm thinking of a prism.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. So when we're in the 29th degree, we would be reading the 30th degree. Or Pisces 30. And also I'm in the practice of, and again, it's something that I learned in 2012, that when you read the Sabian symbols or something, we might be at 29 degrees and change of Pisces. So you'd actually read 29 Pisces as the karmic condition, or
Mm,
in acting, we call it the pre-beat, like what happened just before you walked into that scene,
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
reason why you're arriving at Pisces 30, which is the actual focus or lesson of the moment. And then the next, the following degree would actually be called the quest. So it's like the quest that you're going on, and like to bridge that essentially. It's a lot. I think they're very useful. And that's what we're
I do
trying to bring
too.
back. We're going to be exposing you guys here at Wax Hermetic to a lot of different tools, processes, personal and professional insights that we've had along our own journey, to encourage people to, you know, um, to find their own path and process to the reintegration of spirit into their own lives and to their own practice.
Yeah. And there's a 2-volume set of books called The Circular Temple by
Mm.
Carl Sandbach, I think it is. And that's all the other symbol sets. So there's like the
Oh,
Pleiadian symbols, there's the Chandra symbols, there's the Azoth symbols. There's probably, I think, 5 different other sets that go along or complement, channeled by different people. So it gives a whole different perspective on the Sabian symbols, because you can read that one and then read 4 or 5 other ones, and then just
right.
get this whole really cool, intuitive, imaginative, but also really on point interpretation for each degree,
I
which is
love
really
that.
cool.
And what is the book called again?
The Circular Temple, I think it's called. It's 2 volumes. To
Wow.
bring it back to the temple, I mean, and
Yeah.
in order to have these visions, you also have to learn how to write the book. So there
Hmm.
we are again with the Virgo Pisces dynamic.
Right. And
Yeah.
also the destruction of the temple, which I believe that libraries are temples. And not too long after I found out about the immortality key and had ordered my own copy of the book, I just woke up from sleep and was just like sat up in my bed, and I was like, oh, the Temple of or the Library of Alexandria was a hit job. Like like with no further insight or anything. I feel like it was just an intuitive download. And I was like, even though I know that historically I was taught otherwise, like it was an accident, but I was like, I don't think all that information was lost. In fact, Spirit is telling me quite the opposite, that it has been co-opted and removed from where it was, so that, because if you bury the knowledge that came before, you can then administer the mandates of the current and like leave people thinking that you are the alpha and the omega of reality, essentially.
Exactly. And that's where we get into like the shadow side of all of this, taking control and the manipulation and all the things that we'll get to in next month's episodes as far as the scorpionic stuff, the manipulation of information. And that's where Virgo gets kind of very shadowy and out of control.
Right.
So having that experience be part of history, and then have you just waking up from a dream state, the Piscean realm, with that information and that intuition, which is probably actually the truth,
Right.
and rediscovering all of this. And I want to know what's down there, what was buried, like I go in rabbit holes for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I think
Yeah.
it's very scorpionic, and where the moon is in Scorpio and the sun will be in Scorpio and not too long from now. That's really what Scorpio is all about. It is like Scorpio to me is spirit. Like I know that Pisces is like full like spirit. It's like already on the other side of like physical existence, but Scorpio being the only sign that lives in, that is in its shadow as its like main, mode of operation. And then its shadow side, or its flip side, is the phoenix, right? That which
Yeah.
rises from the ashes of destruction, of death, of demolition, um, is, Scorpio is there telling you, like, Scorpio is so visceral to me. It's just like, that there is something that's hidden, that's controlling you from just outside of your purview. So if you don't use your intuition, you will not you won't have the access to the information that you need to know, you know? Um, yeah, there's just like so much stuff buried, and it's also given me another kind of download that I had in 2020, which was very much about the reintegration of spirit. And it was actually a very powerful image the of basically spirit. It was a feminine, and she's like in chains, and she's like in what I see in my mind as, I don't know if anyone has seen like the Zeffirelli Romeo and Juliet, but when you have these, tombs from, I don't know, that was like the 1500s or something like that. But you have like people laid out on like a marble slab or something like that in a crypt or something, and there's a gate in front of it, and she's been in chains on this thing, kind of like presumed dead, but really there's someone watching the door, and everyone is reeling from their disconnection from her. But the reason why we don't want to acknowledge it is because at some time we've all been the guard in front of the door. And so in
Wow.
order to, yeah, that was like what I saw. Like we feel ourselves internally and individually and collectively like needing mother, like needing spirit, like really direly. And she needs us. Otherwise, like she's like on her like last legs, she needs to be acknowledged. She needs to be like tended to. She needs to be reintegrated. But we're all very scared or concerned or, blocked by like shame or guilt, because at one time or another, each one of us individually has stood as the gate, like keeping the rest of the world from
Mm.
accessing her and not
Or
acknowledging her
fear.
ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah. Or being told it's a sin.
Yeah. Being told it's a sin, or, that's a dark crypt. That's where things that are dead, like go, and like we're so sterilized, we have this like really sterile, like, concept of like what life versus death is, as opposed to like understanding them again as like a polarity that they only exist in relation to each other, kind of thing. And
Exactly.
so that can be a really big, I know a lot of people, I mean, I think even as like children, we have like our imaginations, kind of taken out of us, like conditioned
Stifled.
out of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Usurped.
yeah, usurped. And so, yeah, with this water trine and, with like Jupiter and Cancer, like we are really actually getting such a major, just like download. And again, Neptune and Saturn. I can't, we probably, oh, I used to have I'll probably bring my dry erase board back for one of these.
Oh,
But
cool. Yes.
in like a huge letters on top, it just says like Neptune needs Saturn. Like Neptune needs Saturn in order, the same way that that Pisces needs Virgo. Pisces also needs Saturn to like make sense of it. And the fact that we have both Saturn and Neptune in Pisces. One of them is very comfortable there, and the other one is like, I don't really know how to make sense of this.
Hmm.
That's like it's kind of like an invitation to the collective to find what makes sense to them, and then go about structuring their responsibility towards it, or of
Exactly.
it.
Yeah. And they're going to be traveling together for a while into next year,
Right.
transiting, back and well, they'll finally plop back into Aries eventually, but this time is so important. And I think too that we're getting kind of a glimpse, a reprieve, resolution to all of the Jupiter Saturn squares that we experienced last year.
Mm-hmm.
So now that they're talking to each other in a harmonious way through the water element, through the trine, through the
Mm-hmm.
120 degrees,
Yeah.
I think that that's super important to tap into too before Saturn moves on, and just while we have this opportunity to protect the feminine. I mean, Jupiter in Cancer, like you super protect the feminine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Super protect the feminine. And even for people that like don't know or don't know what that means. I'm like, well, let me tell you that, like, when I talk about the feminine and the right brain, like the part of the brain that intuits things, absorbs things, perceives things in totality, it's there to feed into the left brain so that the left brain can, dial it down to zeros and ones, calculate it to yes, no, is this gonna kill me, or is this gonna help my survival? Those like split second things. But with the right brain, which actually precedes the existence of the left brain, gets, starts to like become dim or disconnected, or like, succumb to atrophy. The left brain, which we're constantly asked to churn and burn and, like overly tax and utilize, without the right brain, the left brain will have nothing to like whittle away to zeros and ones, to
Yeah.
whittle down to yes and no's. So it will start eating itself. So when Practice said that if you destroy the temple at Eleusis, you will make life unlivable, that's exactly what it was talking about. It's like
Yeah.
we can keep making huge strides in, law and medicine and, building of huge, civilizations and work that produces gold and, tangible stuff, and conquests and all this kind of stuff. But when there's nothing else to conquer, like when there's nothing else to devise a plan towards, there's no why behind the what or the how, it will just cannibalize.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And before we get into this air and fire era that we're stepping into,
Mhm.
this time with the water is so important.
I think you're really right. And also just considering what the magic is of that world access point, that, zero Aries. I really do feel with Neptune and Saturn and the North Node in Pisces right now, and along with this, grand trine that's forming, that this is a last, opportunity for us to individually and collectively not only tune into spirit, not only find our own touch point with spirit, not only create our own, relationship, access point, even Saturn is responsibility. And so like
And maturity.
responsibility, yeah, maturity, you know, concerted effort towards
Mhm.
making, firm, stable, buildable, something that is as, kind of elusive or, diffuse, or what do you, not just esoteric, but ephemeral, as Pisces,
Mhm.
that it's an actual, like it's so essential to actually rebooting our understanding and appreciation of like how sacred the individual of Aries is, so that we don't
Yes.
kind of like roll back into Aries and think of it as just like that, steamrolling, warrior, brutish, like kind of age of Aries kind of thing. Like it's like, no, we gotta come back into Aries. We got to roll these things back in Aries, but in the age of Aquarius, which means that we need to have our left brain and our right brain connected. We need to be
Yes. We have to
communicating.
repair the bridge.
We have to repair the bridge. I know. I almost thought, like, I was like, can we work like corpus callosum into our title? But I was like, you know what? I think wax
We can talk
hermetic.
about it.
I
Yeah.
know we can
Well,
talk
so
about it.
so everything that you just mentioned, well, we got one awesome comment. Thank you.
Oh, thank
Thank you,
you.
Jay Wynn.
Thank you, Jay
And
Wynn.
yeah, so thank you for that very much. And that's actually everything that you just said is a really good segue into introducing our next show topic next Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. We will be on every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Um, so the next topic for next week that we came up with is resurrection of the temple.
Yes.
So maybe we can touch on that and do a little teaser for next week's episode before we sign off. We've got about 10 minutes left for today.
Yes. So yeah, the resurrection of the temple. We will be talking about both some of our individual practices, as well as even just like collective movements or places where we've seen in history where there's been like attempts to resurrect, like even just like one pillar of the temple. and kind of exploring. And please feel free to comment, leave your comments. We also, on the Astromegistus website, there is a membership tier where you can actually ask us questions on WhatsApp so that we can address them during our show. But yeah, so we're going to be, getting into what we can do to resurrect the temple, as well as some examples of where we already seen it taking place, and maybe pointing to what the transits and whatnot are pointing towards as like essential like places to direct our energy. I do feel like Mars and Mercury being in Scorpio as like we're repairing like the mind, the mind and will, like the mind action
And the
aspect.
intention.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
intentionality. Yeah,
And having
but
the
also,
two paired, having them so close together. And then just to touch on the next Mercury retrograde, it will drift between Sagittarius and Scorpio. So that elemental shift that's happening back into the water for all the Mercury retrogrades upcoming the next year and a half, we will start to experience in a couple of weeks. So
which
that's really cool too.
that is really cool. And you're kind of touching on something which I don't want to go too far ahead in our programming, but we do plan on addressing the 13th zodiac sign in one of our November episodes because of that sign, also known as Ophiuchus or Ophiuchus. I don't speak Latin personally, but that serpent bearer archetype is so interesting. And while it hasn't been integrated into the zodiac, the fact that, when people ask me about it archetypally, I'm like, well, there's a reason why it's between Scorpio and Sagittarius. How the
Yes.
hell do you get from the underworld of Scorpio, from Hades, back up top to the earth's surface and on top of your soapbox or your mountaintop to exuberantly and enthusiastically spread the good news of enlightenment in
Just
Sagittarius?
shooting arrows as a centaur. Like, come on.
Yeah, just shooting arrows as a centaur. Like, how did you get there? And
Yeah.
it's not an accident that the um, the actual constellation of Ophiuchus is taking up more real estate based on our view of it, because we're starting to realize or kind of get a preview and bring into our purview the fact that there is like this missing step between death and the person who is shooting arrows everywhere. No, between the underworld and the person who has a heightened or expanded knowledge, philosophy, theology, practice, and a reason to be filled with spirit, which is literally what both to be inspired by, but also enthusiasm, which is always a word that I think of when I think of Sagittarius.
Yeah.
We might even find that there's more to do with Ophiuchus as we explore more about the temple and its not just destruction, but its resurrection. That will lead us to the myth of Asclepius that is attached to Ophiuchus and the 13th sign.
Yeah. And the dream temples. There's
And
going to
the
be a
dream.
lot of reference to the temples, I think, throughout our content.
There's temples everywhere. We gotta make sure, like, your body's a temple, your home is a
Exactly. And it
temple.
starts, yes, that's what we were talking about as far as pulling it, bringing it into the next episode for next week. How do you do it will be one thing that Elise said we'll be discussing, but also when we each individually do it ourselves and honor our own temple and go within and can reconnect with our own spirit, we help raise the vibration of the planet and everybody else that might still be a little disconnected. As long as there's people doing it and practicing it, it's in the consciousness.
Right. And we are getting these visitations or revisitations, these retrogrades of of Saturn and Neptune through Pisces, as well as the North Node in Pisces, to actually give us some information. But like while Pluto is in Aquarius, to remind us, it's kind of like taking us out of the dream world of the Piscean age, where we had to have something keep us from this eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, keeping like leaving everyone blind and toothless, to I don't know. I don't want to say that. Well, okay, I'm happy saying that religion is the opiate of the people, but some people are not comfortable hearing that or whatever. And so it's more about finding, at the end stage of Pisces is a very confusing place. It's a place that, without the help of Virgo, it's easy to just feel
Escape.
yeah, there's escapism, there's illusion, there's delusion. We're so far immersed in the delusion or illusion that has been, a rising tide of narrative, and without having your own process of how to tap into spirit and how to make sense and do something practical to bring it into your everyday life, it's very easy to give that power away to somebody else or to an institution or to a narrative that just seems to have existed, just long enough for you to not know what came before it, and just double down on it. And so this kind of, going backwards through Pisces, with both Neptune and Saturn and the North Node, but like in the age of Aquarius, which is, still unfurling. But like with Pluto there in Aquarius, it's like find your own. I love I say that you have to build your own stairway to heaven. That's what
Oh, I love
Aquarius,
that.
that's what Aquarius is telling us. Aquarius is like, you are responsible. Each individual is responsible not only for raising their own vibration, but literally constructing their own stairway to heaven, which means that you have to identify what your heaven is and what materials you have to build it.
Yes.
And you cannot go around stealing someone else's materials or thinking that you can just walk up behind them on their stairway, because that stairway might lead to a completely different place than what you needed to actually sit in meditation and receive what heaven is to you, and give it to Virgo to then help you construct it. And then you'll be meeting the needs of Pisces and Virgo, as well as, starting to fulfill the collective, mandates of an age of Aquarius, and the exiting of the age of Pisces. So we're going to get into a lot of that. We're going to get into a lot of that next week. And yeah, we hope to see you guys next Wednesday, 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time, for Wax Hermetic. And again, I'm Elise Adamkara, and you can find me and Ursula at astromegistus.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Elise.
Thank you so much, Ursula. This has been amazing. Oh no, I lost my earbud, but this is, we're very excited, and we would love for you to give this video a like, whether you are watching live right now or not. And please make sure to comment beneath the video here on the Astromegistus YouTube channel. And please check out our other astrology friends here for the Cafe C programming. We have programming Monday through Friday during the week, and you can check out a lot of other amazing astrologers for their own insight. And yeah, we hope this has been a fun, informational Hermetic Wednesday for you. And we look forward to you spending many more with us.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.